solar power adoption in Africa is a catalyst for sustainable development with a positive climate impact. That's the stance of Arnergy, while noting policymakers should prioritize the development of clear and consistent regulatory frameworks that support solar power adoption. The clean tech company says encouraging local production of solar power components is crucial to reduce costs and recommends exploring innovative financing models such as green bonds and crowdfunding platforms to make solar power projects more accessible to a broader range of investors. James Fabola, Chief Financial Officer at Arnergy, joins us now to unpack this. James, thank you so much. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
It's quite interesting how solar is being adopted across, not just Nigeria, across the continent to areas where electricity, there are still gaps. But let's talk about the level of adoption we're seeing so far in Nigeria. You put out quite a robust report on, of course, the transition to renewable energy, particularly solar, as an offshoot of the Nigeria subsidy reform. So help us understand the level of adoption.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I think we need to look at the level of adoption in two eras from a Nigerian standpoint. Okay. I would say the first is the pre-2023 era, where we saw significant increase, which we detailed in the report. A lot of that was driven by the growing awareness for solar, the environmental benefits. There were also commercial benefits, albeit not as strong, because the biggest challenge continued to be the upfront cost, especially if you're trying to swap that for the current traditional energy sources. Now, all of that changed fundamentally from May 2023, where the new dispensation came in and removed fuel subsidy. Right? We subsequently saw an increase in Band A tariffs as well. And at the time, we had also been struggling with heightened diesel prices driven by global macro events. What all of this did was strengthen the value proposition for solar. Right? Immediately, solar became the cheapest energy source effectively, compared to virtually traditional energy sources. I use the word effectively because this is based on a levelized cost of electricity. Right. Because you still have to deal with the upfront cost challenge. But immediately all of that happened, we saw a surge in demand-supply gap, and inbound requests went through the roof because people were now contending with what was clearly significant energy prices, which was not sustainable both for residential and commercial customers.
Right, and for let's talk about the policy framework, how the government has also helped to support the sector, the market, because the report states that Nigeria is one of the biggest, if not the biggest market, especially for home solar units. In terms of, so from a policy perspective, framework, institutional framework, etc., do we have a good foundation? Have we laid that good foundation for the market to really, really run with it and scale?
The simple answer is yes, right? I would say there's always been a lot of talk around renewable energy, especially since it became popular globally. Speaking frankly, most times when people are talking about it, you can't tell if there's a visceral belief or if they're pandering to stakeholders, right? What I'll give this dispensation credit for is they have, beyond talking about it, they've put key elements in place to catalyze and drive the adoption of renewable energy. If you look at the Electricity Act, which was passed by the president, which mandates the discos to inject at a minimum of 10% into their energy mix coming from renewable energy. It also empowers the states to govern or provide regulatory oversight to how they generate and distribute power. What that means is you're then hopefully reducing the bureaucracy from the center and allowing states tap into what works best for them. And even though that is not explicit, impliedly, solar energy, renewable energy will benefit from this because, again, it's a low-hanging fruit. You're able to deploy solar solutions at a much smaller level without dealing with some of the legacy existential issues at the national level.
Now, low-hanging fruit, obviously, that is correct. Let's talk about cost dynamics, entry barriers for the average home, Nigerian home. How affordable is it?
It's become very affordable, right? You take a typical home. Today, if you're on Band A, you're getting maybe 20 hours. Right? You then have to solve for 4 hours. You're probably using your petrol generator to do that. If you're not on Band A, and even with Band A, you will see instances where people complain that you're not getting the 20 hours, right? If you're not on Band A, then it's a different kettle of fish, right? You're having to use diesel generators if you're a business, or you have estates running on a mixture of diesel or gas. ultimately effective kilowatt hour pricing north of 300 naira, right? For where we're at today, again, speaking to our computations in-house based on our cost structure, effectively, we're able to deliver solar energy to customers at circa 150 naira per kilowatt hour, right? Again, the key word here is effective, because if you still have to buy that solution upfront and pay, for example, for a 5 kVA solution between 3 to 7 million naira, that is still a bit of a challenge, right? What we've then done is then layered on top of that innovative financing. What that means is you crash down the upfront cost. We, for example, are able to deploy solutions at almost zero deposit, and then you pay over a period, and at the end of that, ownership transfers to you. So we're offering customer savings from day one, because while the environmental benefits are critical, for the common man, all he cares about is cost savings.
Right.
And if you're not delivering a minimum of 30 to 50% cost savings, then the value proposition for solar isn't clear.
Let's talk about solar energy storage, because I know that, to efficiently harness this, storing it effectively is important. Talk to us about the emerging technologies that will help storing of solar energy.
Yes, so one of the key drivers of solar adoption in Nigeria is the fact that globally, solar components pricing has fallen significantly, driven by competition, but also innovation. Arnergy was a pioneer of storage, even when it wasn't popular pre-2023. A lot of the solar solutions that were deployed pre-2023 were mostly PV, that is focused on just leveraging energy from the roofs. And then once the sun is no longer available over the course of the day, you then transition into your traditional energy source, whether it's from the grid, if it's available or not, and then generators, right? But storage has now started to play a key role in the overall solar solution. Before now, we had customers whose energy mix from solar was about 30 to 70%. But over the last 12 months, we've seen customers transition totally off grid, and storage has played a critical role in that. So what that happens is, during the day, obviously, you're leveraging the panels on your roof, but while also charging your batteries. And then when the sun goes down, your battery kicks in till the next day, until when, obviously, the sun comes out again. Battery prices have more than halved over the last 2 years. We have leveraged that. Unfortunately, the Naira has depreciated faster, but the net impact is still positive because, again, you're able to get components at cheaper, you're factoring in innovation, you're driving a lot of cost savings, so the customer still benefits from global macro events, and they're able to enjoy clean, renewable, affordable energy.
James, we're going to have to leave it there. I wish we had more time, but thank you so much for speaking to us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me
on the show. James Fabola, Chief Financial Officer at Arnergy, looking at the potential for solar energy adoption in Nigeria.